Hi, this is Eileen Epps Hamilton within the Word Ministries, and we'd like to welcome you to this edition of WordStream, where we take and look at 21st century issues real time from a biblical perspective. The areas that we generally focus on during our sessions deal with well being, lifestyle, and community. And what we're going to talk about today is going to deal with lifestyle and well being because the topic that we're going to deal with today is who is there for you? Who is there for you? And we're really excited about that. And we ask you to invite your friends. They can find us on Facebook. They can find us at facebook.com/ITW Ministries online.org, or either go to YouTube and search on the topic, Who's There for You? We also invite you to please share your thoughts and questions throughout today. The thing that makes WordStream really real time is that we invite you to the table to discuss and engage with the speakers that we've brought on board that we think are bringing real life relevant issues, and you can participate in that discussion. Today, we're going to have an opportunity to learn more about rare transformations as we discuss how do we become more effective in our relationships and resiliency becomes more prominent in our lives. Okay. And so we'll have several questions that we'll put on the table and we will open up the comment session. One thing that I do want to begin to focus on when we do WordStream is to ask you that if you like what you see, that you will subscribe to In the Word Ministries on YouTube. Please click on the red button that says subscribe on the video today. We thank you who have joined us today, and we especially thank those who will find this session later and view it. We are really interested in how do we make this more engaging for you. Our talk today, as I said, deals with who is there for you, who is there for you. And it focuses on relationships, and relationships are really important as we look at how do we increase our emotional capacity and how do we look at it as it affects our emotional, physical, and spiritual health. You know, when God created us, He created us for relationship. And it's even more critical as we move forward in the 21st century that we learn how to engage with each other and also in community with each other and build on those relationships. And that's why I invited a friend of mine, Kim Specker, to come and talk about this topic. I was reading a blog of hers last fall, and I thought this would be an interesting topic for us to discuss today. So sit back, enjoy, invite your guests as we invite Kim Specker to join us and talk a little bit about who's there for you. Kim Specker has been a friend of mine for the past decade. And she is a life coach and a leadership coach and focuses on resiliencies, relationships, and growing emotional maturity. The name of her company is Rare Transformations. And I think you're going to come away feeling better and more encouraged after you learn what Kim has to share with you today. My personal testimony is that Kim invited me to participate in a special group of women where we joined and talked about real life issues. We studied the Bible. But the main thing is that we held each other accountable. We encouraged each other. We did the tough work of being truly intimate and close with each other. And let me tell you, it changed our lives. And there was another group from that group that was formed, and we just looked for it, and we have all of these women who are joining and committing to relationships with each other. So that's what we're going to talk about. I can't say anything more. Kim will just have to come on board. So I would like to introduce you to Ms. Kim Specker right now.
Hi, Eileen. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Kim. Thank you so much for your busy schedule and joining us today. Um, let's begin by tell us a little bit about rare transformation.
Yeah, so at Rare Transformation, we specialize in helping women leaders grow in their resilience, their emotional capacity, which in turn enhances their relationships and their productivity. We also help people recover from burnout and create that sustainable lifestyle that they need to get the life they want.
Okay, wonderful. It says resiliency. Tell us a little bit about resilience.
Yeah. Yeah, and why do I focus or we focus on resiliency focused coaching? I've been coaching for about 15 years now. And what we've discovered as we coach, people can only move forward to the capacity that they have. And resilience is sometimes known as emotional capacity.
Okay,
And as we have intentionally helped clients build their resilience while they're coaching, their results are deepened and more sustainable. So we believe in focusing on resilience at the foundation, and then we create customized coaching programs to meet them where they are to get the objectives that they want.
perfect, perfect. Okay, so how do we grow resilience?
Well, I think let's take a look at that next slide. Um, I actually just have picked up this acronym from a friend of mine, Stephanie Hinman. She's the author of a book called Building Bounce, which is really a book focusing on how do you grow your resilience. And in this acronym, it's very simple, the ABCs of resilience building. And A stands for the appreciation, B stands for your beliefs, and C stands for connections. And I use connections there instead of relationships, but connections and relationships are similar.
Okay,
So when you want to recall, oh, I need to work on my building my resilience, you can think about the ABCs. Practice appreciation daily. Make sure you're living out of truthful beliefs, and then evaluate how life giving are your friendships.
interesting, interesting. Seeing how all of that really flows out, especially during this time when there's so much talk about relationships, especially with the millennials and some of the other Gen Xers, um, and the impact that COVID has really had on relationships. Um, have you seen anything in your study about the relationship between COVID and relationships?
Well, I've just, I'm always looking for that to see the impact. I think we don't know the full impact that the pandemic has had on our culture. But what I can tell you, it was in early 2020, and the US Surgeon General released a study that he had done. And he indicated that loneliness was at um, being considered an epidemic, and this was in early 2020 before the pandemic. And he said that loneliness is one of the greatest challenges to Americans' health because we as human beings are wired to be in relationship and not live in isolation. And then just 2 short months later, here we were isolating and not going to work, not going to school, not keeping up with our regular routines. And so, if loneliness was at an all time high in 2020,
Hmm.
um, there hasn't been a national study yet to see what those scores are in 2022. But I can only imagine relationships, are being challenged.
Okay.
There's a study that actually just came out by an organization that talked about millennials relationships are, especially millennial women, are finding a need for relationships and they're not really finding them. You know what I mean? They want them, but they can't find them. And so there's a longing in that generation to get connected, but they don't know how because maybe they haven't learned the relationship skills that are necessary to have life-giving relationships.
Wow. Wow. I guess having 10,000 social media friends isn't as rich as we first thought when we began that. This may be a good place for our first question, and we've got several listeners and viewers out there. Our first question is: how have your relationships changed since COVID 19? How have your relationships changed? And I guess I'll kick that one off by saying, since we've been so cautious on who we spend time with because of the pandemic, I think I've become more selective, where before I'd be more willing to invite more people in or go out into various circles. I'm finding that now I'm a little bit more selective in saying what are those important relationships to consider. Well, I tell you what, the comment line is open. So, and let's see what the rest of our audience is saying is: how have your relationships changed since COVID 19? How have they changed since COVID 19? So if you would get ready to just tap that into the comment excuse me, then we'll kick this off. While we're doing that, Kim, let me ask you a question too.
Yeah.
As far as the millennials and the need to find and build those healthy relationships and looking for them, was is it with the clients that you may talk to, and I know that's private, but are we seeing any trend other than the reaching out? Who is reaching out to these millennials, and what are they offering for solutions?
Well, um, are you meaning in training materials or
How are they making up for the relationships that they're desiring? You said they don't have the skills. Are they doing more going out, or are they associating with different groups in order to make that happen?
well, since I'm not a millennial, I don't know that I can answer that question, but I think what I've read about it indicates um, they're looking for it in like activities, sporting activities,
Mhm.
concerts, um, group where there are group activities, coffee
Okay,
shops, those kind of things. But I don't know if that's what you mean,
that's
Eileen.
it. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's okay. We got a quiet group out there today, but I'm sure that they're going to ask some questions up here. Let's move on to our next item. Um, Kim, you had mentioned before about connections. Tell me a little. Let's spend a little bit more time talking about connections.
Yeah. So if you want to move to the next slide, that'd be great. Um, I noticed, I thought I would share how relationships fit into the whole picture of our life. Uh, Really, as you consider building a lifestyle of satisfaction, you want to consider six elements. There's your health, which is combined of emotional and physical health. There's your lifestyle. What is your pace? What is the content of your lifestyle? Your vocation, does it have meaning and purpose? Your spirituality, do you have a belief in a God that is greater than yourself? Your creativity is how do you play and recreate? And then that sixth component is relationships, which is what we're talking about tonight. But look at that, just one sixth of your life,
Mm,
your lifestyle is we're referred to in as relationships. But when you break that down, we have relationships um, at least 16 to 18 hours a day. You have your family, you have your work relationships, you have your friends, you have your intimate partner, you have children, you have your extended family, you have neighbors. So you think about all the relationships you're in, and relationships really require a lot of emotional capacity to stay engaged in them.
It's really interesting. I'm noticing that several friends that I might have, that I have, who live by themselves, some of those areas seem to be a little bit out of balance sometimes.
Mm,
And so, especially their sensitivity around health, the emotional health, and they're running into those things like loneliness, um,
mm,
and how those manifest themselves into physical health issues too.
mm,
So, but the relationship piece is, again, for me personally, what has really made a difference in able to bounce back. And I think the funny story that you and I share is around community, others, those relationships. And when I first met you, I said, I've got enough friends. I don't need any community. But I really didn't understand how it really can affect who you are and your lifestyle and what you think about lifestyle. And it helps you not to get stuck. You know,
mhm,
those are the people that help you to get unstuck
mhm.
in life.
Yeah, yeah, that committed community, those trusted relationships are the ones who tell you who you are when life gets hard. And they're the ones who throw you the buoy when life feels too big and you feel like the swells of life are overtaking you. And those kind of relationships have to be solidified before the crisis begins.
Mm, rather than just calling me when things get bad.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have to invest in the relationships ahead of time so that we can have reciprocal relationships. Let's take a look at that next slide, and I'll talk about that for a moment. Um, Acknowledging that relationships are a significant part of our life satisfaction, I thought it would be interesting to ask our audience. We had some questions ready to tee up, Eileen. Let's ask the audience about their relationships.
Okay. Okay. How would you describe your intimate relationship? How would you describe your intimate relationship? Okay, Kim, I have one. I have
Hmm.
one comment. Sometimes they come in on the phone because they can't get through and they're on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
So here's a question as far as intimate relationship. They said someone who will go the extra mile with you and for you.
Hmm. Right. And think it would be good for us to talk about that. They're right on track with what they've said. Our intimate relationships are those that are reciprocal and life giving. We have 2 to 4 people in our life that are like that. Let me describe them for you. Um, Edward Hall, who created this graph that I'm sharing with you, he did research even in the early 60s that demonstrates how, as human beings, how many relationships we can really navigate and handle to make sure they're rich and robust and life giving. He talks about intimate relationships are when we commit to being fully known and authentic with others.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's when we make an agreement that there will be an expression of vulnerability and acceptance in our relationship. And in this intimate space, we make ourselves available
Mm.
24/7. We're willing to live sacrificially for these and help meet the needs of those in our intimate friendship circle. And then we give these relationships priority when it comes to our calendar, our social engagements, and our other commitments. So when we live in America and in the Western world, what we know is we have a lot we have a lot of opportunity to say we have a lot of friends because of social media, our connections on social media. But today I'd like to leave you with the thought of think about who are the intimate relationships in your life. Who would you call at 2 a.m. if there were an emergency? Who would be there for you if you couldn't get to the grocery store? Um, who's there for you when you experience a breakup or you have a difficult time with your child? Then move to the next level, and that's personal relationships. And those are people,
Kim,
yeah.
let me share this one that came in that said intimate relationships are those who accept you the way you are.
Oh, yes, so well said. That's exactly right. That in your realness and vulnerability, you are accepted and you are known. That's right.
Mm,
Mhm. And then you move out to that next circle, and we can serve between 4 to 12 people in personal relationships where you're making them a priority. Maybe they're not your first ring, if there's an emergency, but they're certainly there if a crisis occurs in your life.
okay.
Then you move out to the next level. And these are people that you might see regularly. Might be at the gym. They might be who you play cards with. They might be who you play pickleball with. But they're social relationships. And you have 12, maybe more in that circle. And then finally, we really cannot steward more than 17 or 72 relationships to
Mm,
really know people's names, who's in their family, what's going on in their life. So when I saw this and it was broken out like this, oh, not everyone is going to be my intimate friend. It gave me permission to really evaluate the quality and
mm,
the satisfaction that I was getting from the relationships in my life.
right. Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So it's really funny because we usually are in settings where there's probably 20, 12 plus where people are always saying no one's authentic. Well, if you're in a large group, can you really risk being
Hmm.
authentic, the real true self? Is it okay to protect ourselves, in those settings, knowing that that level of intimacy and trust just isn't there? Isn't that funny? Especially when you think about church. We're all in church and all good church people. So you
Hmm.
should be authentic and it should be a safe place. But we usually don't feel that way.
Hmm. Yeah, and I find that in the marketplace too, when you're on a team or you're in a division of people, and now with more and more people being remote, it is really difficult to find um, personal relationships that you feel safe with at work
Mm,
because you don't have that same physical connection, the mirror neurons passing back and forth as you sit around the table. You have the meetings, you have the the happy hours or the after work events. Those aren't happening as much, and so many people count on their workplace to help be their support network or their friendship circle. And what we're realizing is people are really having to go out and find relational connections.
okay. Okay. Well, let's talk about kind of where do we go from here. We've got about 7 more minutes. So, if there are
Mhm.
any comments or general questions that you have, please post those so we can get those answered at this particular time before we lose Kim. And we sure
Mhm.
don't want to miss this opportunity to have this discussion with her. So, what are the things, the message, the takeaways that we should take
Mhm.
go with today?
Yeah, I just created some questions for those of you who are beginning to look at who's there for me, who's there to help me build resilience, who's there to help me live out of life satisfaction. And the first question here, who are the people who give you life and joy unconditionally.
Hmm.
And those would probably be the people in that intimate relationship circle. Then make a list. Who are the people you're willing to serve and sacrifice for? Because this is reciprocal. It's not just a one sided thing. We're asking, what would I be willing to do for others? And what do I want them to do for me?
And that's the piece we usually miss.
Hmm. Yeah. And so here, who are the 2 to 4 people you'd call in case of emergency? And I think being honest with yourself and going, okay, how much time and emotional capacity do I have to give to others?
Hmm.
Because if you're tapped out, you're overwhelmed, you don't have resilience, but yet we know you need resilience to recover and bounce back to being in a stronger state than you were before the difficulty or hardship happened. There's a shifting in the mind that says, oh, even though I'm tired, even though I have a lot on my plate, I have to reposition some things so I have time to be relational and to be energized and to be known.
Mm. You remember a couple of years ago, we were talking about a book called Necessary Endings?
Hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And this is kind of the discussion of what are the relationships that come to fruition or as an end as a result of timing or whatever the circumstances. Like you were saying, your life has really changed since you have grandchildren, your sons are married, and spouses, that we can make those adjustments and make those necessary endings.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy to really redefine your friendships or to define them, but we have to be honest with ourselves and we have to be realistic about making them a priority. And I think it takes some time set aside for us to evaluate who are the people I want to invest in and who do I want to invest in me. Um, when you talk about necessary endings, there are some relationships probably in each of your lives that need to end because they're not life giving and maybe they're even hurting you in a negative way. But to do that, you have to pause and think about and consider what would life be like if you did end unhealthy relationships.
Yeah.
And that would be hopefully the motivation for you to do this work by answering these questions because you don't know how to, or you don't know it's a priority to build healthy relationships if you're stuck in unhealthy ones.
Hmm. Hmm. Well said. Well said. Well, we're winding up here, but I want to let everyone know how they can get in touch with you. Kim, you want to share this with us?
Yeah. If you have any specific questions I haven't been able to answer today, if you'd like to learn more about the importance of resilience building and and relational satisfaction, feel free to take a look at my website. That's where the blog posts are stored. And you can actually look at this blog, Who's There for You, that Eileen talked about. There's others that I've posted each month. And then if you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to me on my email at kim.specker@raretransformation.com, and I'll try to get back with you and give you an answer. Um, yeah, thank you for being here. And thank you, Eileen, for inviting me into
No,
your
thank you, Kim,
community. And
for taking time to do this. And we look forward to having some more conversations around resiliency and relationships. Okay.
yeah,
All
thank you.
right. Thank you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Bye bye. No, thank you so much. All right. I'm going to leave this up here for a few more minutes. If you would like to get in touch with Kim, and I invite you to get in touch with Kim, the information is on the slide right now. Call that information, or either you can leave me a comment on our website, itwministries.org, and we'll help you get in touch with Kim and Kim get in touch with you. She also does speaking engagements. So if you would like to share what you've learned today, please contact Kim. She loves to do this. And I know that she would love to have the opportunity to share that with you. Love to share that with you. One of the things that I would like to say before closing is number one, please make sure to hit that red button, subscribe to In the Word Ministries, our YouTube station. Also, share it with your friends and family. On next session that we have, we are going to invite Lisa Reddick to come and talk about mental health first aid. Mental health first aid. We would not close out this month knowing that this is Mental Health Awareness Month if we didn't take time to talk about it. And what are some of the myths that are about mental health and how we handle that? So that's it for today. We are so glad that you came to share time with us. We invite you on the 30th to come back. And I think that's right. Come back on it says 21st. I'm sorry. It should be May 31st. May 31st. Okay. There was a reason I was supposed to go back to that slide. May 31st, when we will do that on mental health first aid. Again, we thank you for joining us here at WordStream, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for joining us. Share this podcast with your friends and family. Thank you. Bye-bye.